Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Sorry for the delay. I think we were having some video issues, but I think we're all set now. So let's go ahead and get started. Do we have Bridget on to take roll? No, I saw her on there. Tedra? She's on there. Tedra, there? You want to come off mute to take roll?
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. Go ahead.
All righty. Richard Graves,
Here.
Ed Strobel, Christopher Rotella,
Here.
Steve Witten,
Here.
Robin Chiarelli, Grant Henderson,
Here.
Bob Dennison, Noel Norvell, Ted Marley, Roseanne Lovell,
Here.
Kitty McGowan,
Here.
Deirdre Bowling Lewis, Barry Flanagan,
Here.
Norbert McLaughlin,
Here.
James Harrison.
Here.
That gives us a quorum for tonight's meeting this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Tedra.
Yes.
Moving along, do we have a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, September 2nd?
Second, Ted Morley.
So we have Ted and Ed Strobel there.
Second.
Ted and Ed Strobel for a motion on the minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, let's get right into the Waterway Crime and Boating Safety Report. I see that we do have Sergeant Tom online here, or do you want to go with Sheriff Will Phillips? Officer Phillips, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so for the month, we had 85 warnings, 35 citations issued. We had 4 boating accidents and 6 burglaries of vessels. That's all we have so far.
Okay. It's pretty concise.
Pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Do we have any questions for Officer Phillips? Nothing? Okay, and I don't think you have any, there aren't really any major events coming up that are going to get your attention, are there, either?
I'll stay for the commercial docking, unloading, all that.
Okay, great, thank you.
The officer, I was asking once before, and I don't know whether he's ever got it or not, do you have any information on any thefts or something that happens on trailers and stuff of people's homes, on boats? You know, like the outboards are missing or the outdrives and stuff are missing at the home. Do you get that notice also?
Well, we hear the calls go out, but typically a patrol officer on the road will respond to that since it's not on the water, and it would take us an extremely long time to get back to the dock and respond to that. But we don't have the stats for that.
That's what I'm saying is, in other words, the reports and stuff, you don't give a report and stuff when we hear of anything that was taken just on the waterway, that's it?
Correct, just on the waterway.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Officer Phillips. We've had an item removed from the agenda, so we'll get right into the presentation of the Raintree Riverwalk Residences with 72 Thaker and I believe Tyler Spell from the Spell Group.
Hi, good evening. Stephanie Toothaker on behalf of Symbol Development and the Raintree Riverwalk Residences. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. We actually have our whole team here. Joe Palma, who's the architect, is going to give the presentation. Asi Symbol is here, Hector Torres, Yana. We've got pretty much Abby Sutton. We've got our whole team, and then I know Chappelle Group, who is responsible for the in-water improvements, are also available and on the Zoom. This is a project that's been around for a very, very long time. It was originally called Marina Lofts. Marina Lofts to this day is still an approved site plan that has received extensions through executive order extensions. So that's a site plan that we could still build today, but we're coming back with a revised revision. It's now called Raintree Riverwalk Residences. We're really excited about the project. Joe and Yana, the architects on the project, have done just a really, really phenomenal job, and so
They can hear you.
So we're excited to present it to you. I do want to address up front, there's a rumor going around. I'm not sure where it started, but I've heard it now 3 or 4 times. So somewhere along the line, someone had indicated that perhaps Mr. Symbol was getting some kind of grant or funding from the city or from the Riverwalk for the improvement to the seawall. That's not accurate. This is all privately funded. It's a privately funded development. There is no grant. There is no city money. There is no money from the Riverwalk. So I've heard it enough times. I wanted to address it, particularly because we're before the Marine Advisory Board. So myself and my team will be happy to answer any questions, and I'm going to let Joe give the presentation.
They're the, is it this one here? Yeah, there we go. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Palma. I'm the architect. I'm just going to go through and give you an overview on where it's situated. As you can see here, it's right on the bend here of the river, across. Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah, arrow keys, thanks. All right, so I was just introducing, it's situated right here in the bend where, as you know, the development of the Riverwalk is a big thing, and this project really will provide the activity and the real community meeting point for what we would be placing here, alongside a rain tree, celebrating the rain tree in its terminus of what happens in the bend of the Riverwalk. You can see here a really great, active, diverse array of hardscape and planting and water feature, a gathering space for everyone who is going to be transitioning along the Riverwalk. From a marine edge, you can see within that 25 submerged land lease zone, there's the proposed 5-foot dock right off of the seawall, and then there's the remaining 20-foot that we actually have with the overhang of what we currently have, the relocation of the rain tree itself. The rain tree's canopy extends about 21 feet at its maximum horizontal over the river, and fits within development our 25-foot submerged land lease area that I mentioned. Here is it in plan. So you can see the dashed line that is called out, the proposed submerged land lease, is actually, the tree is not encroaching beyond that, the extent of that submerged land lease. Just to give you an idea of the intent of creating this great connection between east-west of what we would experience along the Riverwalk, having the ability to have it as a meeting place, a place that will have community retail and active, safe, well-lit, late-hour activity, as those of you who've already experienced the current Riverwalk in this area, will actually help animate it even more, and not only for its residents, but also certainly for the surrounding community. Landscape is a big part, alongside with what we are also exploring with what we would do as a art garden along this sea or the river edge. And in its landscape, we're intending to have an array of mature, well-shaded tree line, as well as great ground cover and terracing landscape, as you see in the image. So that gives you an overview pretty much on how it relates and pertains to the Riverwalk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Some discussion or some questions from the board? Ed, go ahead.
How far away is the trunk from the actual water, the wet face of the seawall?
The caliper itself, the tree trunk,
Yeah, what's the minimum distance between the edge of the tree and the wet face of the seawall?
35 feet.
35.
Sorry,
okay.
35 feet, yeah. Yeah, and I should mention the relocation of it is quite complex, but we have probably the US's top consultant who was actually responsible for the World Trade Center relocation of the one tree that did survive. So, our client has invested immensely on, protecting the actual process of relocating the rain tree.
And is there any, looking forward, how big the tree can get and how far it can go out, or is it going to be trimmed to stay inside the 25-foot submerged land lease?
Yeah, I mean, the tree in terms of the arborist report it's actually pretty much at its what we call the canopy extension.
Okay.
And I'm not the expert, I'm just, from what I've been privileged to in the discussions, the pruning, the little pruning that's required is actually good for the tree. But what you see in terms of the encroachment area, it will not extend beyond where I've mentioned. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. In terms of ongoing maintenance of this tree, I understand the arborist is involved in the moving and the relocation of the tree, but is there a plan, and are these specialists going to be on site? Because moving something of that nature, I mean, is there something in the budget to make sure that it's adequately taken care of and that there's no further issues that could be coming up as a result of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a valid question, and we were actually prepared to answer more specific to the marine, the seawall and its relation to the arborist is really the specialist that can answer how the process is of not only the relocation of it and its process, but also its maintenance afterwards.
Monthly maintenance for 5 years.
And what are the odds of the tree surviving?
Sorry, I just got the scoop. Monthly maintenance every 5 years?
Every month.
Every month. Okay, every month there's a maintenance on it
5 years.
for a 5-year period. Yeah.
And then regular.
What are the odds of the tree surviving the relocation process?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What are the odds of the tree surviving the relocation process?
So we did not bring our arborist because the tree is not actually what's on the agenda. I'm happy to try to answer those questions, but I want to be clear that our experts, as it relates to the tree, we've got the Chappelle group on to address any questions about the docks, submerged lands, the improvements that are in the water. Our arborists are obviously planning to attend the hearing on the site plan and the discussion about the tree relocation.
I mean, from our discussions we've had, I mean, this is also a very valid question. What are the odds? We, in our workshops and our discussions internally, they've relayed to us this is not at all unusual relocating a tree of this scale. In fact, they've relocated trees much larger than these, and they've a high success rate. The specific percentage of whatever the probability of the tree then having any ailment or any issue is something that we cannot answer.
And getting back to the dock, it will run the full length, the east-west of the property, and you said it will come out 5 feet?
The boardwalk,
Yeah.
5 feet, yes. Yeah, let me bring it up for you again. It's the other way, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Have you submitted these plans? I know that you're talking about submerged land lease and everything else. This is like if you dredge, you're thinking about the height of something. Have you submitted these plans to the Coast Guard? Coast Guard has to do with navigation. Are they okay with that? I imagine that you have submitted it to the Coast Guard as far as navigation is, because I don't see any approvals or haven't seen anything where the Coast Guard has given their blessing on this.
Yeah, I mean.
So this I can jump in if you want. This is Kat with the Chappelle Group.
Go ahead.
So we have submitted to Broward County, FDEP, and the Army Corps of Engineers for the regulatory permits for the dock and the submerged land lease. We are in that process and we've gotten our first round of RAI comments. And through that coordination, the Coast Guard is consulted. So we haven't submitted directly to the Coast Guard, but that's part of the coordination that happens with the application to the Army Corps of Engineers.
But that's what I'm interested in. I mean, I've looked at all kinds of documents, so you have not yet submitted or gotten approval from the Coast Guard as far as a navigation point on this tree, on even the overhang that you have out there now. Because I know where my boat and stuff is, if there's any overhang whatsoever and stuff on the water, the city's forced to cut it back. And I don't think, if I look at the plans you originally have on there, you can't cut more than 10% of that tree off, and you're already doing that in the transplanting process, so you won't be able to trim the tree once it's in place. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, again, we're not the arborists, we're not the ones who.
I realize that, but I don't see anything in here stuff. You're here for the presentation. I don't see the arborist here, so I can't ask him that question. But what I'm saying to you is, I don't see anything in here that the Coast Guard has said that you can hang this thing over even 5 feet over a waterway. That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, we can get that information.
Okay, I'd like to see that information when you get it.
Yeah, no, that's something we would certainly.
Hey, Barry Flanagan, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't understand what we're talking about, the tree here, I don't know why they're here. There's no variance required. I don't understand. They're building something that's within the ability to do through a building permit. And I would caution about us getting involved in approving. I can't imagine Tyler would want us to approve a partial site plan that's not been approved. It refers to submerged land lease, which is going to be proposed. It has to change. We don't know the language of that. We do know from the plan here that you're going to have 10 feet from the face of the proposed legal dock out to the waterway at the end of the submerged land lease. There aren't many boats going up and down the river anymore, Mr. Chairman, that are less than 10 feet. So they put a 12-foot boat or, a 80, if they put like a 34 Intrepid or something that's got a beam already larger than 10 feet, it's out of the boundary lines. And then, Marine Board approved it. And this is the thing we got involved in years ago under the other name. We got a lot of criticism for approving something that had nothing to do with us. You know there's going to be controversy about this tree. I say we stay out of it. They don't need our approval on this, and wish them luck and have a good day.
Well, that's what we need to stay focused on, is the safety and the navigation of the waterways here. That's what that's our purview. So
Chair Anderson, Morley.
1 second. When it comes to the planting the tree and everything, that's, again, not our purview. Let's stay focused and on what we do here.
Chair Ted Morley.
Yeah, go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm just jumping in here. Apologies for not being there in person. I agree that the tree really isn't our focus tonight. Our focus is looking at the plan as it presents to us. If there's any navigational questions or issues we have in support of the questions regarding the submerged land lease. The one question I have in particular is regarding the seawall improvements, any structural issues there, and also the proposed dock. It's only a 5-foot dock. It's not a huge area here. The submerged land lease is not really in our purview. That's a Coast Guard issue. So really, I think we should focus on the water side of this presentation and not get bogged down with the tree or the arborist or anything like that.
Correct. So, Mr. Sudek, can you speak a little bit more to the dock, and will they be allowing dockage there, and up to what size, and talk to us a little bit more about the actual improved dock that will be going?
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually going to ask the Chappelle Group to address that specifically.
Yeah, so we have a new seawall proposed to stabilize, anything that's happening on the upland. So there's going to be a new seawall across the property with the 5-foot wide marginal dock. The dock will have 10-foot setbacks on each And so it won't go property line to property line. There will be a 10-foot setback from each neighbor. And then the vessels that are, proposed here are not large vessels. They're going to be between, 20 and 50 feet in length. And so, yes, we're processing those applications currently with the regulatory agencies. As has been stated, this does not require any variance. We're not asking for a variance. This was just more of a, an informative opportunity for you guys to ask any other questions, that you might have about the specifics.
Yes, Steve Litton, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I actually had some of the same concerns that were expressed before. I didn't really fully understand whether or not this was a request for us to simply review it or pass any judgment on it, et cetera. So I appreciate the clarification on that as well.
Could you scroll back out to the aerial? I wonder what the length of the river is.
Yeah. Chair, I have a question.
136 foot.
Okay, go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, is there any change to the seawall, to the shape of the seawall? Is there any other encroachments that are coming out or changes to what the seawall basically would look like? And is there any change from what was originally approved to now as far as the shape of the seawall?
Catherine.
Yeah, so I can't speak to what was previously approved. Stephanie will have to answer on that part, but we are just putting the seawall. The environmental agencies don't like a new seawall to be any more than 18 inches waterward of the current wet face. So we are proposing the new seawall, the new wet face, to be within 18 inches. We are proposing to fill in that existing basin that's there to just straighten out the property. So the new wall, it will be in line with, it will tie together in front of that basin. So that the property now has one flush, straight seawall.
Okay, so again, there's really no variance that's being requested. Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's nice to have the presentation, but I don't think that it's within this board's purview as far as to really make any determination at this point.
Do you have any other questions or comments from the board?
Hey, Grant. People, they're talking about replacing seawall. The existing seawall is
Are you speaking to the microphone a little bit so we can hear you?
existing seawall to remain.
Right. So we call it out as to remain because, these plans are geared towards the environmental agencies. So the existing seawall will remain and a new wall will go in front of it. Because if we called it out as to be removed, then that would be a whole different scenario where once you start taking seawalls out, things behind it can start to fail. And environmentally, that can be a worse scenario. So typically, unless there's a reason that existing wall has to come out, the wall is called out as to remain and the new wall will be installed within 18 inches of that existing wall.
And of course, you're putting a new seawall in the area that you're filling in, the dock space there.
Correct.
Do you have a zoom in where the current water taxi property is? It's kind of hard to see. There we go. So you're filling all the water taxi in and going straight across. Correct? Yeah.
Catherine, did you hear the question?
I think
Yes, that's correct.
itself here. Yeah, it looks like the whole, so it's all being filled in where the water taxis now currently have like a cut-in area. It wasn't clear on a bigger picture. Thank you.
Continued questions, comments from our board. Andrew, as we're not seeking a variance or motion, do you open this up to the public or is this?
You can open it up to the public, yes.
Okay.
I didn't hear.
Okay, if there's anybody from the public that would like to speak, now is the time to do so. Please come to the podium, state your name. And everyone, keep in mind what the purview of this board it is as well.
Hi, my name's Janet Skriper. I live at 401 Southwest 4th Avenue, which is the Esplanade, the building directly next to the this property, and I'm also on the board of Tarpon River Civic Association, in which this neighborhood, this project belongs. I just want to know that in the future, when we get some more information about actually how much the tree's going to hang over, because right now it hasn't even been approved to be moved to this spot, and so there's a lot of information that's not available yet. If in fact, I mean, it hangs over more or it hangs lower because the canopy seems to be lower than it's indicated in the photo there, will this become under your purview, or is this going to be totally like Coast Guard or something like that? Just trying to clarify, if we have issues with the canopy hanging over the water, and the maintenance of it after 5 years, because somebody has to take care of it forever, not just 5 years. And, you know, what if the branches break off and start floating down the river, whatever. Will this ever come under your purview, or whose purview would it be?
When it comes to the navigation and safety of the waterways, that falls within our umbrella. So, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, that would come to us at some point, or because it's a land-based tree, would it not? Or I would imagine at some point it would.
The purpose of today's presentation is informational.
Right.
And
but in the future,
providing a forum to comment on navigational impact.
Right.
So I can't speak to tree branches falling off into the water, but I think the presentation has spoken to the anticipated distance that the tree will extend over the waterway, and whether or not there's a navigational impact is up to the board to determine.
I'm sorry, Andrew, I'm having a really hard time hearing you. Can you maybe get closer to your mic or something?
I am. Okay. Yes. The board's purview, once again, is navigational impact. It's up to the board to review this informational presentation and determine if they want to provide commentary on any navigational impact.
Okay, so I just want to say that at the moment we don't have, you know, specific information. That location has not been approved yet, and the details of the tree canopy, et cetera, has not been established for sure. So at the time that it does become available, if we think it is a navigational hazard, I mean, we don't know, because like I said, the picture of the tree they're showing does not represent the tree in its current form. So, you know, just saying, doesn't look like that in reality.
right. And I would imagine that at some point it could come back before this.
Okay, that's all. We're very concerned about that, and I just want to make sure somebody's looking out for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public that would like to speak? Okay, let's bring it back to the board. Do you have any other questions or comments for our presenters?
I would agree. I don't think there's really much for us to do tonight except for listening. And then when they finally get their plan done, then I think there needs to be something in there that says they need to maintain it forever to be inside the 25 feet. But I think we're premature saying anything about that at this point, because that's really our only purview. The people around it can make their land-based claims, but for us, it's all about the navigation side.
Right, and of course the dock as well, once that's set.
Exactly.
I think they said they were going to
We
do
would
it
agree to
monthly
that.
for the first 5 years and then do it as often as it was necessary for the remainder of the life of the tree, right?
May I speak, Chair? Yes, that's correct. So under the agreement that we have with this, we already have a permit, by the way, issued from the city to move the tree. The permit allows us to move the tree behind the marina that's there now. Our intent is to ask the city to allow us to move it to a better location so it can be celebrated. The agreement, the permit requires us to maintain it once a month for 5 years. After that, it will be done regularly. It just won't be every month. And yes, we would agree that it would always have to be within the boundaries of the submerged land lease at the 25 feet. We would be happy to agree to that.
Okay. We do have somebody from the public that did sign up. Is it David Harris?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, David, please.
Great, thanks. question about the seawall and the dock or whatever that extension is. Will boats tie up to that space?
There is currently slips proposed on the proposed wooden dock. Yes.
Got it.
And just to expand on that, these are meant to be transient. It's meant to be a transient dock. At the base of the project itself, it's really a celebration of the Riverwalk and of the tree, and it includes retail, it includes restaurant. We hope, we've got, of course, as part of the site plan, we have a lot of images showing how that celebration happens. So, there are not a lot of, I'm born and raised here, and I'm a boater myself. There just are not a lot of places you can go on your boat to go get a meal. We all end up at Coconuts triple docked into each other, right? So the idea is here that you would be able to do that. That we really want to celebrate the tree. We want to celebrate the fact that we're on the water, we're on the new river, and we think and hope that this will really become a destination for boaters.
So that's great. My question and concern is, there are currently limbs on the tree that are only 25 or 30 feet above the ground. And so any tall boat or sailboat with a mast that wants to try to dock there is likely to hit the tree. And I've seen taller masts, significantly taller masts than that on the new river. So that would be a concern that I would suggest the board consider as we move forward with this project.
Okay. Thank you, David.
Grant, I have a question just to get.
Barry, go ahead.
The maintenance of the dock after it's completed, does that fall upon the developer, or the city has no liability expense to that, correct?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
The maintenance of the dock will be the developer's.
Absolutely. Yes. I do want to just address also Mr. Harris's concern. The area that's under the tree, while it is the dock runs the length of the property, that is also an area that we would not allow transient boats to park there. We don't want to impact the tree, assuming that we get the approval to move the tree to that location. We would not allow a sailboat with a tall mast or anything of that sort to park underneath the tree to create any conflict. We're happy to put that on the record. We're happy to offer it as a site plan condition. That was our intention.
Can I make a suggestion, being also a lifetime boater in the area? You might want to consider the dinghy only under 20 feet. There's so many people that go, I live right around the corner from there in the water, and hundreds of dinghies go by every day. It'd be nice to have somewhere where you wouldn't have one 50-foot boat taking up the space, but let them med more in with dinghies.
Right.
Problem solved.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Questions or comments from the board? If not, then we'll move on.
Okay.
Thank you, 72 Taker.
Thank you.
Shell Group for presenting.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item, which is discussion on the commercial operations of loading and unloading. Norbert, do you want to?
This is Andrew. Norb McLaughlin brought this topic up recently, and we decided it'd be a good idea to table it and
You
discuss
hit me by surprise in here with that. All right. Anyway, one of the things that we've been talking about in this city for as long as I can remember, and I said I've been on this board, I said on and off, I said for about 30 years. So being an actual marine construction and operating barges and tugs up and down all the time, I can't tell you how many times that I've had the Marine Patrol and everything else stop me because I was in violation of the city's code as far as loading and unloading equipment. The ordinances and stuff over there are kind of restrictive. And let me make one thing first perfectly clear. First of all, as far as I'm concerned, the Marine Patrol and everything else, and also the marine facilities, not responsible in any way, shape, or form on enforcing this policy. So if some of the contractors would get aggravated because of the Marine Patrol stopping them. It's not their policy. It's they're enforcing a policy, just to be clear. Some of our policies, as you well know, if you have a vacant piece of land and you're going to put a seawall on that piece of property and it's stretched out, and if I take a barge and I go there and I talk to the owner and I said, hey, how about I load and unload equipment and stuff over there because the neighbor 3 blocks down, I'm building their seawall. Yours, I said, we would probably not start from another year. I can't do that legally. Even though that piece of land and the stuff over there is clear and I do have the owner's permission, I do not have the permission and stuff from the city and stuff to do that. So I would be in violation. Now here's another catch. If I was to pull a permit to put a seawall on that property eventually and still waiting for the final permit, and let's say I drive 1 pile or so like that in there basically to start, and I'm saying, all right, now that I have an actual permit for that piece of property, I still can't load and unload anything from anything other than that owned property. And there is no place in Fort Lauderdale, none, that is legal for a barge to load or unload any equipment, either to repair, to make a new seawall, or for that matter, if we have a hurricane or stuff over there, legally, I can't go in the back and pick up sheds, roofs, trees, or anything else because I don't have any place that I can unload that in the city of Fort Lauderdale. I have to go to other cities, Hollywood, Deerfield Beach, and so on down the line. So you people, as I was saying, that are in Fort Lauderdale, including my own self, if I'm having anything built in Fort Lauderdale, you get charged premium compared to the other cities because we have to charge a mobilization, and it's quite a distance to go up the river into some of these places and then go to another city to load and unload. So what I did is I contacted some of the different marine contractors and to see if we can resolve this situation. Maybe if we get the city commission and stuff on board and we can find some locations in Fort Lauderdale where we can make this legal. And therefore, I said we don't have to take barges to and from other cities to load and unload. So I don't know what how we actually start that process, but I think if we have a communication or something to the commission that we need to have this looked into. And I said that 20, 30 years, I said that we've been bringing this back and forth over there, one commission after another, and it doesn't seem like that anything is progressing, anything is moving forward. I know I've talked to some realtors and everything else, and they can't understand if they have a commercial piece of property, why they can't charge, let's say, a marine contractor to load and unload equipment in there, not to keep barges there overnight, not to store things and stuff over there. And I think the main problem they have is that they're going to trash the place. Well, first of all, they wouldn't trash somebody's property. And another thing is, in other places where I've had to load and unload, like up in Deerfield, they actually have a person to come by, and when I'm finished loading and unloading, to make sure that there isn't any debris or anything left. I've had to pick up couches, I've had to pick up trash bags and everything else that were not mine in order to keep the property clean so that I could continue to load and unload there. So I don't know from how we go to start that other than, and I have some marine contractors, I think, that are in the audience and stuff over there that maybe would like to say something.
Yeah, why don't we get to that before? Do we have any other comments from the board regarding the matter?
Hi, this is Kitty McGowan. I totally just want to second his comments in that, I mean, this city has been built on the waterfront, and now not to have contractors be able to have access in some regard within our city limits is, I understand highest and best use from a real estate aspect. I mean, there's dozens of shipyards that don't exist anymore, and that's a part of development and growth, but there still has to be a plan for being able to access the waterways so that we can keep our waterways strong and keep the industry strong, because without that, then that's what drives the jobs in the industry here. Just my side.
That's a good point. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would say that we need to fully support them and giving them the tools to do this as well. What Jeff Scribner is on his way here. He's a good friend of mine, childhood friend, and him and I looked online and tried to find some sites that might make sense, but there wasn't really anything that really made any sense from a real estate perspective. So even if even at a minimum in the beginning, allowing them to use a property maybe that they already are loading and unloading from, even if it's not that person's property, maybe they have like a few months or something. But yeah, I would just say that we do whatever we can, because I agree that we need to give them the tools to do this and not punish them for not having an ability to do so.
Agreed. Anybody else from our board that'd like to make a comment?
Yes, Roseanne Lovell here. I also happen to be the big sister of Bill Lovell, who is the esteemed chair of Lovell Marine Construction, who I think is in the audience. But to second what Kitty said and Chris, if we're all talking about carbon footprints, and to think that the city is, if you go and put a permit in to improve your seawall, you are being mandated to raise it to the elevation. So the juxtaposition of what the city is requiring, and you're putting these contractors at a hardship, carbon footprint and all of that jolly rot. I just want to commend Norbert for bringing it up. And I think it is an issue that we just need to address.
Very good. Anybody else? Okay, why don't we have somebody from the public would like to get up and speak? Make your comments heard. Come on up, state your name.
Good evening. Good to see a lot of you guys on the TV. Know a lot of you guys personally. Norbert, thank you. Got a lot of attendance tonight. My name is John Petrowski. I'm a partial owner in 3 marine construction companies. I know almost everybody here this evening, and I know we're all rowing in the same direction when it comes to this. I think Norbert made an excellent point, and there's probably 2 initiatives that we should embark on. One is a formal process to get the code slightly modified to allow us to, maybe with certain permissions, certain advance notification and insurance, et cetera, which I think we'd all be open to doing. But certainly, if we gain the permission from and/or have a permit, that we be able to load for multiple projects on a site within some guideline or restriction. I think that's an important consideration. I think creating a pathway for us to have a discussion with the appropriate city folks on how to do that would be a really good thing. And thank you, Norbert, for bringing that up. And then, yeah, I think we should work together. I think we all recognize that this is now a major infrastructure problem between the water rise, between the state getting involved, the counties getting involved, and now the city mandates being more enforced here recently with raising seawall elevations to minimum heights. This is going to put a lot of pressure on everybody in this room to certainly do a lot of work, and there's not a lot of us doing this. It's incredibly difficult. It's incredibly expensive. And so I think we need to work together to solve this problem, because we have a failing infrastructure situation that's getting worse and worse by the day. So I think, I'm probably junior here to a lot of these gentlemen in the audience, and they probably have some suggestions on city-owned property. I know there's some lease issues. I know there's a few properties that Norbert and I have discussed, and I've discussed with some of the folks here that might be potential candidates. But I think we should start the process and conversation on how we can identify maybe somewhere in the New River area, because for us, coming up the New River is very difficult to navigate. We often have to hire tugs to bring us in or bring us out. So I think it's important that we try to identify something on the New River. Cooley's Landing is something that I've looked at as a potential possibility. It's owned by the city. And then have something that's more central. Fort Lauderdale, Norbert and I have talked about, over there off Oakland Park as being an option. But I think there's 2 tracks here that if we could start the discussion in the process of going down the road to amend the city codes to allow us to, within certain guidelines, load multiple projects off a permitted site and work with the city to identify a couple of properties that we could use under certain regulations, insurance. I'm sure we're happy to pay so that we can get that done, because it's going to help our citizens. They're not going to have to pay these mobilization fees. It's a lot less risky. The less we're moving barges up and down these waterways, the safer it is for everybody. So those are my comments. I'm sure these gentlemen will probably have something to say as well.
Thank you. Who's next? Come on up. Just please state your name.
Evening, Bill Lovell Marine. But pretty much what everybody's saying, that after a while, the cities are going to have to come up with something so everybody's not playing the cat and mouse game. And, you know, it's just something that's going to make life easier for everybody. So that's kind of, I agree with what's been stated.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Dean. I'm one of the local marine contractors here in Broward. Along with these other guys here, we're all facing the same exact problem. A lot of the boat ramps will try to load at different ramps, different city easements. We're having issues with Marine Patrol where they'll come by and they'll just harass us for it. We have a good friend of ours that just got a trespassing ticket at George English Park, which that park is for loading and unloading. Yes, it's for boats, but they don't really specify it either. I just think that it's going to save a lot of aggravation for everybody, time, aggravation. I think really just something needs to be put together. We have miles and miles of seawall, and a lot of it needs to be raised, new elevations. Just kind of looking for your all's help as far as what we can do to make this a little bit easier on everybody. And hopefully we can come up with something. I know Collier County, they have certain landing areas where you can rent out for like a half day. You know, we're willing to pay it. We're not trying to say, hey, let's sneak in and load for free. It's better that if we pay and we're not rushed, we have time to load. We're not in a rush to, load heavy concrete piles. These piles weigh 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 pounds, and we're in a hurry to get out, and we're just swinging them all over the place. It's not safe for anybody. So if we have something, it's going to be safer for us and everybody around us. So thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Is that it from our public? Okay. Well, let's bring it back to the board. Norm. What do you
Chair,
think?
there's one more from
Sorry.
the virtually.
Wait, one second, Norm. We had somebody else there. Was there somebody else that I missed? That was just speaking.
David Newmark.
Yes, David. Please, go ahead.
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead.
I think that it's been a problem. I think that it needs to be addressed immediately. I think that people end up, we kind of in the business, we joke around. We have to act like pirates, get in, get out, try to not disrupt anything before getting caught. And, this is the yachting capital of the world, and we have no means of loading up. A police officer once stopped me loading up and said, this is in North Fort Lauderdale, and said, oh, you can go somewhere in the port. Well, barges travel at, maybe 4-5 knots tops, maybe with the tide. You're talking about hours and hours to travel. There are only a few outfits that have barges that can carry 2 or maybe even 3 jobs worth of materials on the barge. Most of the barges that my competitors and I own carry 1 job's worth. And to have a day's travel, it's going to end up going back to the customer as a cost, and there's going to be problems. And what you're going to end up having is the people that don't comply, that want to cheat, they're going to keep sneaking and doing these things and basically underbid everybody else because everybody is doing it in a manner that is lawful. And we'd like to make it easier on everybody, including the homeowners' pockets.
Okay. Well said. Thank you.
I have a question for the officer. You brought up that marine contractor over there. Got the ticket that you're giving to that you're forced actually to write up is trespassing?
No, sir, it's a violation of the ULDR statute, so the city ordinance. It's not for
And that
trespassing.
like what he was saying, that requires a court appearance?
Well, yeah, so it's a notice to appear in court. And then as far as operating in a park, if it violates the park rules, they can be told they're trespassing and issued that.
Okay, what I was saying is, I'm not trying to catch you. That's something that I haven't heard of because like the last marine contractor said, I myself had to be like a pirate in some places and stuff. Sometimes I only had I forgot maybe one pile or something, and I had to get one pile someplace. For me to travel 30 miles for one pile and back and forth, I took a risk. All right, and I'm absolutely say that I had to do that as far as I was concerned. But I never was in parks and stuff like that. But what I do see in the parks, I see we have I don't know if they're still in there, we had barges and stuff over there that used to pick up the trash and stuff in the city of Fort Lauderdale, the big pontoon boats and stuff over there. And they had dumpsters on board. And they took the dumpsters to boat ramps and stuff over there. And they had like take the dumpsters off and on. Isn't that removal and picking up dumpster, but being it's a city, it's okay?
Well, that was city crew operating on a city property.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is and also I've done some work for the city over a period of years and stuff, and I found out that when the city has a job that they're doing, the city can find you a place to load and unload, whereas some of the private sectors does not have that same right, and that's what I think. Maybe there's a little problem there and stuff over there with that. But anyway, I said I didn't know that the fine was trespassing. That I didn't understand that. But now I understand that's a park. That's something altogether different. I never loaded and unloaded in a park. Not that I know of.
Correct, but the fine that was issued for the one at George English was not for trespassing. That was for violating that, and he was taking up the only boat ramp that was available because the other boat ramp's under construction.
Can weddings and stuff pick up and drop off people at parks and stuff?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Wedding boats and tour boats and stuff over there, can they pick up and then things? And also like fishing boats, diving boats and everything else, they can?
You cannot operate a business out of there, so they can do pickups, but they cannot conduct any paperwork, instruction, exchange of money, any kind of things like that.
Well, I know in Fort Lauderdale, if I'm not mistaken, and probably Andrew can answer this, but I know in Fort Lauderdale, you're allowed to pick up and drop off passengers on our floating docks in Fort Lauderdale as long as there's no exchange of money. That's what I understand?
Yes.
Okay, so that is legal there, but as far as the boat ramps are concerned, one of the places that I was looking at is the Oakland Park Bridge. The reason I said that, on the turnaround on the bridge, when you go over the top of bridges and stuff, there's always a turnaround where if you're going eastbound, you want to go westbound and vice versa. In other cities, Deerfield and places on that, or like Camino Real and some of the other ones, that's the area that the cities had designated for barges to load and unload. In areas, first of all, like at the bottom of those bridges, when you make a turnaround, and stuff over there, they are usually quite wide and everything else. And that's the places I wound up picking up sofas and everything else and stuff on it. But in Fort Lauderdale, I was looking at the Oakland Park road, and that one would seem one that would be feasible that the city may think about. The other one I noted that we worked on when they did work for the city is up by the Performing Arts Center on, I guess it's further west where the floating docks are. there's a turnaround up there also where barges and stuff over there would have access for it. And I'm not saying staying overnight. I'm saying load and unload it. So there are a couple of places I think that the city can look at, but I don't know what the procedure is from this point on. How do you, with other than a communication to the city commission, how do you get the city basically to move forward to what we're suggesting?
And is there a way until we figure out a plan to get the police officers to, obviously they're just doing their job, you know, but is there a way to kind of get them to back off of these guys knowing that the situation, knowing that we're trying to make an effort to resolve the problem, and or no? They just
Right. So
That, I mean, that's a big question, is that it seems to be ordinance driven by the city. Is this something that can be, we can make a like a referral to the city commission to amend that ordinance to allow certain things that are in permanent areas, such as like parks, or not parks necessarily, because that would be an interesting thing, but to be able to kind of create something else, because right now there's not really any options.
would it be a communication to the commission, Andrew?
Yes, that is one option. I think incorporating perhaps Mr. Piotrowski's two-prong approach might work if you incorporated that into the communication.
Barry, go ahead.
Norm, the place on the Oakland Park site is, the permission there would have to come from Department, FDOT. And I think the private sector has a better shot at making an application or a request than the city would at this point. And I think it's looking towards a coalition of private and public input to address this problem. The city can soften up the code to allow multiple loadings or unloading within reason. The city can perhaps do something with George English, although is it the Sunrise Bridge restricting as to what you get there? I mean, barges have cranes.
I'm familiar with it. That's pretty narrow there. There's narrow.
The height of the bridge. You have to go under the Sunrise Bridge here. The New River.
That's another one.
Is that not what you're talking about, where they got cited?
Yeah, when basically it comes up there. I said if we get a major hurricane, it'll solve its own problem because they will find plenty of places.
Yeah. So tonight, I think addressing the commission, we need to let them know what we think the private sector should do, or will do, or undertake it, and in the meantime, what can we or offer relief or suggestions, and start looking at some of these sites. You know, years ago, it never left this room. We need to leave the room and get out in the field to see firsthand what can and can't be done, because this isn't something that, oh, well, we can't do it. I think we're at the point where, well, we need to find a way to do it. And that Oakland Park Bridge area might be suitable. It's got one way.
So what you're suggesting, Barry, is basically if one of the private contractors or several private contractors would apply to the city for, let's say, take the Oakland Park Bridge turnaround.
That'd be the FDOT, not the city.
What's that?
That'd be FDOT, not the city.
FDOT?
Yeah, they have the roadway there. They would be the ones to grant approval.
Okay.
Well, then we could go back to the city so that they say, okay, we're licensed, we're approved to do it or whatever. And there may be vacant property adjacent to it. That's there where the old Down Under is. That could be a pull-in, turn around, or do something there. Maybe that guy would like to get some revenue coming. But again,
I'm not
Hey, Barry, can you get closer to your mic? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. There we go. The vacant site where the old Down Under used to be, that's adjacent to the, Oakland Park Bridge. You got to go down the same access road to get to either one of the properties. Maybe that, if we research the owner and see where he'd be receptive to a 6-month or year-to-year lease, something like that, that could be a solving problem. And the parks thing, I think, if the city is, we got to, I think, work together on this.
I think we need to, I think you're going to see the public come out in droves against anything, any use of park, any use of Riverwalk, any use where people are used to going around. These are very heavy. They're dangerous to move around, and you don't want to have to bring them into like Cooley's Landing. You can't get semis in and out of there that easily. It'd be very dangerous to try to turn them around. I think we need to leave the parks and Riverwalk and any residential areas completely off of this if you don't want to have an uphill fight for 20 years. But the downtowner property and any commercial properties, I think those are great opportunities. But if we start bringing in the parks, you're going to fill this room with people who don't want it to happen.
Well, plus the Riverwalk docks and seawalls are crumbling anyway, so it wouldn't be a good thing there either. So.
Yeah, and it's just too many. I mean, hundreds of people go by there every hour on bikes and everything else. You can't block that. Same with the parks.
I don't think we've had any inquiries about doing it on Riverwalk, have we?
Well, you just mentioned the turnabout by the Performing Arts Center. That's right on Riverwalk, and it would also damage. You got to find
Probably stay
places like the downtowner, not the downtowner, the down under properties like that, or public properties that are away from the public. People aren't walking around. People aren't walking under them. People aren't trying to get boats in. People aren't riding bikes. They've got to be safe. The city will never look at any property that's going to put the public in danger in order to help private industry. I mean, I'm a boat owner and 3 seawalls in my life, and I absolutely 100% support this, but not in parks and not in areas that can harm the public.
Well,
And staying away from bridges, because I would think that the crane, 5,000
gotta
pounds.
be areas.
Chair Henderson, Ted Morley.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in here as well. One of the primary purposes and purviews of this board is the safety of navigation along our waterways. And I think we have to be very cognizant of that fact when we look at either giving implied or implicit consent to supporting heavy lift operations in an area that's as heavily congested as the New River is. I share Ed's concerns, and I share his ownership of seawalls and everything else. I've had a bunch of them replaced. I know it's very onerous for these guys to find a spot to load, but we have to be very careful of what we actually ask the city commission to look at, especially when we talk about the officers being asked to perhaps look the other way. I totally don't support that. I think it's inappropriate for that to even have a conversation in this forum. The laws are the laws right now. I would suggest that we can communicate to the commission to look at this and suggest that the private companies speak to their commissioners and find a way to resolve the law and actually change the ordinances rather than trying to be a pirate and work around it.
Okay.
I totally agree with you. I didn't hear anybody looking to say that in terms of trying to be a pirate. I think everybody's looking at how do we do this legally and how do we do it safely and in the best interest of the city and the citizens of our town. So no, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with you, Ted. So.
Well, several of the guys that presented mentioned feeling like a pirate and having to sneak around behind the backs of the officers, if you will. So I think we have to be very careful of that activity. And our officers are tasked with the safety of our community, protection of property and life, and enforcing the existing laws. That's their purview, that's their job, and it's ours as well.
Right.
And just doing a quick search on Google Earth right now, we may want to include the Broward Marine Advisory Board because they've got some pretty interesting land just adjacent to ours that is more commercial oriented and not being used like south part of the
Absolutely.
We're going to hold up for 1 second. We got somebody else from the public that we're going to let speak here that we can then comment on. Go ahead. State your name again.
It's Patrick Dean. A couple of the properties that you mentioned, the one at Oakland Park Bridge, pretty familiar with it. Some of the problems, I think the lot that's adjacent to it, I believe they do have building plans for that to do a condo. So I don't see that working out too great there. Another option maybe is on the north side of Davie Boulevard Bridge. I believe there's a big lot there. Might have a little bit of access. Maybe try something like that. Trying to think. There's just not a whole lot of options, you know. It's kind of maybe a spot at a boat ramp where we can kind of section off in like a landing area that can be rented out. I don't know, just throwing some ideas out there.
I think it may be worthwhile for, no two members of the board can go anywhere together and have discussions about this kind of stuff, but if somebody wanted to go with some of these people in a boat, or I'd be happy to take some of them around in a boat and help with some short lists. Because again, that city commission is going to want some plans. They're not going to, communication is great, but it'd be better if we had a communication with a list of possible properties.
One of the things is that if the ordinance would...
Microphone.
Is that okay? One of the things, if the ordinance could be tweaked, let's say, for that, if there's a house is torn down and the owner and stuff over there has a vacant piece of property at this point, that's one of the things that I wouldn't mind seeing, that the ordinance changed to allow that the property owner, to allow a barge load and unload. I'm not saying stay there the whole night and everything else, which they could if they had a permit to build something on that property. They could leave it there, but that it would be a person that owns a tract of land, that it would be tweaked that they could load and unload until which time that the guy started to build. Some of these lots and stuff lay vacant for 3 to 4 or 5 years, and the property owner, I said, basically is paying taxes on it. So even if these barge owners are paying that person a particular amount, whatever is agreed on, for the use of that property, until which time that they either put a seawall there or build a piece of property, that would be a piece of land where you wouldn't have to worry about residents and pedestrians and everything else. And I can go up and down the river and find several of them where a lot of people have bought 1 and 2 and 3 lots and have leveled it, and there's nothing there. And I've used some of those spots already. I said, when I've loaded and unloaded barges, basically I am illegal doing that. But, I've been there, and I said, there's times over there where the guy said, why don't you leave your barge here overnight? I said, I can't even do that, period. So that's the thing that I would like to see, maybe tweak that ordinance a little bit to allow a commercial property or even a residential property that's already demolished, to allow that person to allow a barge to come in and load and unload in there for a specific amount of time.
Let's go ahead and continue.
Norbert, that idea has a couple of major concerns legally, from a liability standpoint, from a zoning standpoint, and now we're taking a lot in a residential neighborhood, probably a high-cost residential neighborhood, and we're inserting a commercial operation, direct violation to zoning. So it sounds good from the water side, but it creates a whole bevy of problems on the shore side issues, and that's really well beyond the purview of this committee, in my opinion. We're not going to change the zoning laws. Is that homeowner going to then have to take out liability insurance for a commercial operation? Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of problems that comes up. So that's really not a good solution, in my opinion. Sorry.
I think we need to have, a long-term commercial property as well, because I think that, I could buy a site for $800,000, knock the building down, and make more money off these guys. It's going to just turn into a business in a residential neighborhood. I think maybe temporarily do it for like the next 18 months till we find a property, so at least they have a solution. But I think we need to find a permanent location that can be deeded and can be there for the rest of the time that the city is here above water.
Okay, please, from the public.
Good evening again. It's John Petrowski. In an effort to get a plan in place that I think we can start to move forward on, I think, unfortunately, I've had a fair amount of experience working with cities and looking to get codes changed. And so there is a process that we, as the public or as contractors, can take to get in front of either planning and zoning or the commissioners for the city, which we can do, and I don't mind doing on behalf of everybody. But I think any of you on the board here this evening, in conjunction with us, could probably notify the commission and or the planning zoning board request to present in front of them and present them with a organized, well thought out, and I don't mind having my legal team work on it, And I think the easiest thing that we can do is most of us here have multiple projects all over the city where we have permits to conduct work. And we probably, under a set of circumstances, would be most likely to be able to get some sort of permission or stay to allow us to load under certain conditions for multiple projects that we have permits for on one of our permitted projects. To me, that seems like something that is the easiest path to a quicker resolution. So I think if you guys wouldn't mind working with us to get audience in front of the Planning and Zoning Board or the Commissioner both, I think we can put a well-prepared presentation together that identifies the risks and concerns from legal and liability. And I think there's a pathway there if we work together on it. My second thought is maybe what we can do as a follow-up to this or continuance is to work together to identify locations. And I don't mind, again, offering my team to do the due diligence from the land use side and identify what concerns there are with the various properties, get a short list together. At least then we've identified properties that both your organization and the contractors think will work. We've done the due diligence to figure out what the legal issues are, and hopefully we'll find a pathway through and then identify who to present that to so that hopefully we can move forward. But that's probably a longer term process. To me, the more immediate thing is we certainly can't skirt the rules. We certainly can't ask people to not enforce things, but I do think there's probably a pathway to get an allowance for us to be able to load on a project that we have a lawful permit for other projects. So that would be my two thoughts on things we can do to take a positive step forward and have a follow-up meeting on the locations and then get us in front of the appropriate committee to discuss the first one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Go ahead. State your name if you would.
My name is Jeff Scribner, and I just wanted to say, so I've been lucky enough that I've had projects that a house was torn down. It was permitted for me to do a seawall, but obviously we try and run as much other jobs through that as far as deliveries go, just so that we have, a permitted site where we, are allowed to exist. But, as far as an empty lot that isn't set up for anything, is just staying vacant for months, there's some other people that have taken advantage of that in the past where they would park or do other sorts of work that would just, a nuisance to everyone around when it's not something that was going to be construction related. And things that have worked in the past and one that's still currently working, there's a company up in Pompano right across from the 14th Street boat ramp. It's obviously commercially zoned and they're able to, load and unload all their own stuff with no issues. Obviously we can't all use that company's property, but something definitely, commercially zoned, similar to about 30 years ago, I think it was Curry Marine Construction or Curry Marine. They used to pour pilings and deliver them. I think they were out of Miami. And, it just worked, but that's something that doesn't exist other than the one company up in Pompano that happens to be on the water in a commercially zoned area. So, again, we'd all love to comply with something if there's a plan made up. And, at the moment, there's no need for anyone to just park and sit. We have enough work going on right now, and it's just nonstop. So we definitely need to address this. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, if there's anything else to say, you want to work on a communication to the commission next, or I don't know what the next step is exactly, but I think we're all kind of swimming in the right direction here. But
I think Barry had an idea of it. I think the place to go first is to check with Department of Transportation on number 1 or 2 of those spots where we're going to load where a truck is, and then find out from there, and then maybe have a communication from the commission. And unless anybody else wants to have a commission and stuff, I said I can work with any of the other contractors and we'll put something together, like John or something over there. Maybe we can put together something and bring it before this board, take a look at it, and then have a communication to the commission. And I said, maybe some of these contractors, if they can at all get along for a short period of time and come up with something feasible, that we could have a communication to the commission, come back before this board, take a look at it, and then go from there. By that time, maybe we can find some more information with, like what Barry said, with the Department of Transportation and stuff over there, what their feelings are.
Andrew, did you have a point?
Another thing that I can do is I can schedule this topic for the November Marine Advisory Board agenda as well, so that we can revisit some of the progress that we've made in the upcoming weeks.
Grant, this may be
Barry, speaking to the microphone, please.
this might be a little unusual.
Barry, into the.
Little unusual than the normal communication, but I think we should notify the commission that this issue has come up and we're planning to look into it and invite their help while we go forward, either through having somebody like the city manager direct a staff person that can work with Andrew and or us. But I think we do need to let them know something that we've started this conversation.
Okay.
But you know, if we don't ask for help, they'll never offer it. Maybe the mayor or somebody would think it's something that the city.
What do you suggest? Is it something you want to do tonight, or is it something that you want to put together that we can then transmit to the commission next month?
I'd suggest that we take one board member, whoever wants to take the lead, to meet with some of these private sector folks, so that we're not forming a subcommittee, which is a painful process to get done.
Right.
Start the conversations. In the meantime, a communication to the commission is probably a good idea tonight, if you can come up with one. And we all know how painful it is to change the code and how long that takes. So I think that may be an ultimate goal, but those of us who are here for the boat lift code reform know that it takes a period of 6 months perhaps to get that done. So in the communication, I think that you should include some of the points that were made tonight, and plan to attend both private sector and board members that particular commission meeting, so that you can speak directly to the commission in about a month's time.
Okay.
Chairman Henderson, Roseanne Lovell here. I guess the sting of still just sending communications to the commission without a lot of clarity. I think what needs to happen is that this industry, like has been done in Miami, where the Miami marine contractors found a solution. I think we need to identify the problem, come up with solutions, and present this to the commission more comprehensively. I think I commend Norbert for bringing it forward. I think we need to just identify it, refine it. This is a classic association type agenda. But to be the yachting capital of the world and not have this better refined and defined. So I think we should Norbert, I think we internally should maybe talk to the group that's in here, talk to it was Petrowski, and some of the others that spoke, and come up with a plan, identify the properties, flesh it out, and then come to the commission with a more tight program would be my suggestion.
Should be a concise.
I totally agree with that, because just dumping it in their lap is just going to go nowhere.
No, something with a concise, clear solution as well. David Newark. David Newmark, go ahead.
I'm sorry, do you have a question for me?
No, I thought you had a question.
Oh, no, I was I actually agree with, I believe it was Kitty that was just speaking.
Roseanne and Kitty.
I'm sorry, actually both of them. I agree with them. We need to, if we dump it in their lap and ask them to do their due diligence, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that every marine contractor would be on board. I think that the alternative is to ask the police officers to do the opposite and to do a complete and utter crackdown to where every barge and every marine construction company decides to jump ship and say, I'm not going to work in Fort Lauderdale anymore, and see how Fort Lauderdale's citizens feel about that. That's obviously
That's a bit draconian, but
it is. I'm sorry. It was in jest, but I think that we will all be happy to get together and come up with 100 different ideas and present it to them to where they really don't need to do a lot of work, and maybe things will happen. It's such a struggle with us that us doing our due diligence to come up with ideas and loading spots is a drop in the bucket. It's a joke. It is such a struggle. I personally have extreme anxiety, even when I have permission to use a vacant lot. I get horrible anxiety. Am I going to get delayed? Am I going to get stopped? Am I going to get cited? All of these things. It's horrible. And, there are many times where we tell our clients, yes, I thought I was going to have your pilings today. We're going to have to find another spot. It may take me 4 hours to drive there and 4 hours back. I'll see you in 2 days.
Got it.
I'd like to make myself available. I don't know what the legalities, and so I know I'm not
believe we
allowed to
have a
hang out with
path.
them, but
You'll have it on the agenda again for next month, so we can readdress it then. So, is there a suggestion?
Grant, please speak into the mic.
Oh, sorry. So we'll have it on the agenda for next month. So is there a suggestion to how to approach this with, say, within the sunshine law and making sure we're,
I think by next month we should try to have a few sites identified where we've spoken to the owners of the property, whether or not they would be open to a ground lease, selling the asset, what that price. I think that's probably, without having an actual physical site that we can present to I think anybody we present this to is going to agree that it's a problem that needs to be resolved.
Would it be like a communication and stuff for the commission to say that the marine construction is looking into the feasibility or the places that a barge could be loaded and unloaded in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and it'll be addressed at next month's meeting or something when that orders for communication? Is that important or no?
I think I agree with Roseanne that let's having something sharp and concise and with a solution is going to get a lot more than just, hey, we're talking about this.
Okay.
My personal.
Norbert, I love you for the suggestion.
Okay.
Can we send out like an RFP or anything like that?
Well, I think at this point we should do a point, or someone should volunteer to be the point person from the board to meet with these
And just one person.
private sector folks and myself, and start the process towards a succinct communication and come up with some ideas.
Do we have a volunteer?
I mean, Norbert's clearly leading this charge, but I mean, I'm available
Why would I
with
not
the
do
real
that?
estate side of things.
Kind of walked into that one, Norbert. Okay. If
I'll
there's,
support Norbert in that.
if there's no more discussion on the matter, then let's move on.
So we don't need a motion or anything to create that, or no?
No.
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 Not to, no. Okay. Good discussion. And thank you everybody from the public that attended. You're obviously welcome to stay if you like. Next item on the agenda is old and new business.
I have something under the old business and stuff over there. I haven't, not for a couple of months now, heard anything about a rail or anything else that's at the Icon. How are we progressing? Is there anything being done about putting a a railing or a wall or a fence or something at the icon, which was on there. I might note that I went and I saw the contractor that built the walkway, and I did not see the plans, but they informed me that there was no wall, no railing or anything else on the plans for the walkway, which was supposed to be put on the plans. And they told me, they told me that there was no railing on the plans, and I kind of have to believe them.
Yeah,
But I don't know, moving forward, where are we with this?
Barry, you want to speak to that?
Norb, you stole a little bit of my thunder here. David Petty is the person that I've talked to in DEP recently as today. Back in May, this board sent a strongly communication to the commission that we were very much, against any docking that was proposed at the icon or whatever, was named under the construction permit as being specific to Chapter 15, where prohibited docking and adding that rail. So he called me back and said that as of right now, there appears that a permit modification request is going through the city and with the state, and that a RAI, which stands for requesting additional information, is going through. So, what part of this picture don't some people understand? That we're opposed to this, we'll go on record with it, and it's just ignored, and so somebody is going forward, and DEP is looking at revising a permit revision. So that's where it stands today.
Okay.
I think we should be able to find out who in the city is handling this and why we're not involved with it, or why. I mean, that Chapter 15 clearly outlines the fine involved, and the thing has not been built as some plans were submitted, and boats are continuing to dock and unload and offload people there.
Any idea, Andrew, who that would be? Who would you talk?
I'd suggest sending me an email citing the communication, perhaps including the communication from a sole board member, so there's no sunshine violation, and I'll forward that up the chain, try to figure out who that contact person is. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point to bring that up. And that was made back in May, right?
Yeah.
It was, and I was there.
Yeah. It was a strong communication.
It was a great communication. It would have more teeth if I had backup. So board members,
okay,
perhaps even, ideally the ones who make these communications, be there with me, because the commission typically asks, is there anybody here from the board?
Okay. Yeah, let that be a message to all of us that if there's something strongly, you should, it's best in your interest to show up for these commission meetings. Any other old business? Go ahead, Andrew.
There's a marina called the Las Olas Marina, which is no longer being run by the city. We handed the keys over to Suntex on October 1st.
We're basically
doesn't get much older than that.
Yeah, pretty much not.
Not yet.
Are there any marinas left that Suntex hasn't purchased?
Grant, microphone.
Okay. Any other new business?
I have something on the new business. I know I said I get tired of talking and stuff in here. I noticed something in the news the other night, which the city of Fort Lauderdale, I think, needs to look into, and it has to do with the waterways. The city of Hollandale is, and they're putting in, on their storm drains, they're putting in little corrugated pieces to stop the flow of bottles and everything else into the storm drains, which is preventing a lot of this stuff from getting into the waterways. And I was going to take a picture of it. I happened to be driving by and happened to look at these guys that were actually putting them in there. And it's kind of neat because it almost looks like this gutter operation where the leaves go into the gutter and they put a little thing on top which allows the water to go through, but it traps the debris. The first thing I was thinking is, oh, geez, they're going to have just a load of junk that didn't go down the storm drain. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's probably a damn good idea because it didn't get into the waterway. It's a lot easier to clean up on land than it is in the water. And what they do is they have like a neighborhood watch type thing where they look, and if there's a lot of debris or anything else, they've been picking them up. The city of Hollandale is putting them all over their storm drains in there to stop them from flowing into water. It was on the news the other night, and I happened to go and happened to see them. And I think it's a good idea that maybe the city of Fort Lauderdale ought to look into and to stop a lot of bottles and leaves and everything whatsoever that gets into the storm drains and winds up in the water in the canals. And I just thought I would bring that to your attention that it seems like a good idea. And if I can get some pictures and stuff of it, I'll give them to Andrew and he can send you some pictures. Or if you take a trip around Hollandale, you'll see these things. They're pretty unique. Looks nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Norm. Any other new business? Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Ed first.
Second.
Second, Ted. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See you at the show.
Joe, if you could be the point person on that leaf thing, okay?